Frandsen.
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Can't get enough baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
There is no human being on the planet in 2025 that I would rather talk to right now than Kevin Frandsen, the man who I first met over a meal that I still remember what I ate. Do you remember, Kevin?
No, because let's be honest here. I've eaten a lot of meals before, and therefore this one did not stand out.
Okay, chicken tortilla soup made by Dustin Pedroia's personal chef.
I was going to say by the personal chef.
By the personal chef.
Oh, it's amazing.
Did you give him crap for having a personal chef? I mean,
no, because he was I wouldn't say he was ahead of his time, but he was pretty much ahead of his time.
Yeah,
it came to that. There was a lot of guys that were investing in themselves just in general, but the number one thing was the chef, and I think that's such a huge part of things, right? It's James Harrison, right, with the Steelers for the longest period of time. What did he talk about? Spent $1 million on himself,
right?
To make sure that he was right every week and every game and everything, because he wanted to live up not only to, be able to play to his contract. I mean, same thing goes for Dustin. Same goes for so many of the guys. But it was one of those first experiences I had. I was like, damn, this guy's good though.
If you're gonna get a personal chef, get a good one. And all he did really was roll over his Big Mac Happy Meal money from 2006 to 2007 to the personal chef. I mean, that's just science, right? Correct?
Right. That is correct. Because we know that he went for the cheapest route. But I mean, that's how it's going. So,
all right. Well, hey, listen. Before we get to, I want to get your expertise, because clearly you're an expert, because you've done a lot of great things in baseball. Most notably, or most recently, telling everybody what's what on the MLB Network radio series, whatever you want to call it. So,
Channel 89.
Channel 89. Thank you. That's better than whatever you want to call it. My apologies because I've always been I've said this to you before. I mean, I think it's an excellent channel. It's an excellent organization. There's one thing they're missing, which is the Kevin Frandsen Bradford show.
They won't ever give that to us. If you have 90 days in the show, you might have a chance, but that's about it.
Never say never. But you also have a great hat that you're wearing right now. And so before we get to sort of you ranking, telling me what teams that you feel like their vibes and their Q rating have never been higher, I want to hear about this hat. But so it's in case people can't see it through the medium of audio, that you were wearing a hat that was basically an ear of corn on it, and the ear of corn. Oh, the corn is baseballs. Oh,
corn is baseballs. Yes. So Field of Dreams whiskey, started by Drew Storen and Tyler Clippard, former big leaguers, former all-stars, just fantastic people. Drew Storen, you had to figure at some point would be using that Stanford degree for a reason, and he's an ideal guy. Or an idea guy. Ideal or idea?
He's
either
ideally an idea guy.
Right. The Clip Show is he's the show. He's the one that will just go out and play golf with everybody. But the ideas are coming from Storen and his brain. But people didn't know this, that the Field of Dreams, the actual Field of Dreams, where it was located and where they played the game at, where they did the movie, the field and farm, the field. The baseball field itself, it's all owned, but sometimes you just got to look into some things and check it out. And they looked into some things and they said, "Oh wait, the corn is not owned." Wait, what? You have a cornfield? Yes.
Which not to interrupt you, but by the way, that's where the meat and potatoes of the whole ball of wax is. Which is the players are in the corn, right? I mean, the players are in the corn.
Right. So the greatest thing ever is that they go the the corn is not owned. No, but you have a cornfield, yeah. But we are not. That's not owned. So they bought it. They have the corn, and they have turned it into a fantastic whiskey. They just came out with a small batch. Look, I'm not even on. I'm just buddies, right? Like this is something that I became into whiskey because of them and Jerry Blevins back when we were playing in 14 in Washington. And so it's fun, but then it comes into like it goes even further than that. You got the 2024 Player Series bourbon, like it's their normal one. They will put the where they put bottle numbers and all that stuff. They'll put the like a I don't know. Let's say it was my number 18,159 or something like that. And you're like, why would they have that? That's the number I was as far as Major League Baseball player. And they have done such a good job. They've done a QR code on the bottles, not the small batch. This is the 2024 Player Series. And with that, you shoot it, with your camera, get the QR code, and it'll send you right to the baseball reference page of that player.
Really?
Yeah, like everything they've done with this is just fantastic, and a shout out to them because Field of Dreams whiskey is. If I didn't know them, I would tell you it's one hell of a whiskey.
So
but because I know them, it's the best one you'll ever have.
So one of us in the last 2 months have taken a tour of a distillery in Scotland. That would not be you.
Seriously?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Come on.
And?
Yeah, man. Well, it's in the middle of nowhere, and I mean, it's
all I've heard is complaints so far. I want to hear how good it was.
No, it's good. I mean, it's good. I like the fact that I can say that, right? I can just say that I did it. I'm not a whiskey drinker, but I can say that I did it. It's street cred. That's all it is.
That's true.
And I can say that I did something that you didn't do in the last 2 months, which, other than that, there's probably
other
nothing.
than drink. Yeah. It's
well, all right. So, man. Oh, here you go. You just sent me. There it is. You just texted me. That's a great bottle, by the way.
I mean, look, the label of it. You see at the top. If you look at the second part, you see 3,082 out of 23,114. One for every player to make it to the major leagues. I just think the whole idea is amazing. It's not gimmicky because it's damn good, and enjoy.
Can I tell you? It seems like every even semi-celebrity that gets involved in alcohol, not like drinking alcohol, no, but like producing alcohol, makes $1 billion. Like Kevin, I had talked to during the Soto stuff. I had talked to David Ortiz. I said, "Oh, well, you're going to go out to with the Red Sox to meet with Soto?" He's like, "No, I was just there." I was like, "Oh, well, why are you in L.A.?" He's like, "My rum company." I'm like, you're going to be the next George Clooney, like that.
Well, so I think it's something that we could all agree upon if you do happen to partake in an alcoholic beverage. Let's say the people that invest money into said company. There's a little bit of it's the interactions between people. It's the social part of it, right? And you get into it, you invest in it. And I think when it comes to an alcoholic beverage, if it tastes like crap, like I'm out, right? Like so you're going to invest in that. Like if you go to like for Kevin Youkilis, right? And Loma Brew.
Yeah.
Like it started out as a great drink, as a great beer, and it just only continues to get better. But like it's the part where like the amount of time that he invested into doing that.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It wasn't just like we're going to throw it in here. No, he got chemists to come in to do his brewing.
Well, and I think that beer might be a little bit different because beer, you're right. I mean, you really have to nail it. If you have a crappy beer, it's over, and it
just sets your day off.
It sets your day off, right? Totally. Right. But if you have, let's say, like I go back to the Clooney, since I'm very close with George Clooney, and I know exactly how everything went down with that.
Shout out! Let me get that card for you. Got it right here.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't know George Clooney at all. But if you have a tequila, right? If you have a tequila or a vodka, there's probably not going to be that much of a difference, honestly. And so you can get by. Am I wrong? Or am I wrong about that?
No, I think you're onto something right there.
All right, thank you. This is why we're the ideas are popping, and this is why we're symbiotic. All right, okay. Well, and by the way, do you is the KF Investments, are they involved in this?
No.
Oh,
not
okay.
one bit. Not one bit.
All right.
Again, they're buddies, and you hope they do well, but it's not only that; it's just that it's damn good.
Well, get on that. Can you name the numbers you had in the major leagues?
No.
You can't name all the numbers you had in the major leagues.
15 is my homers because the kids.
No. Like uniform numbers.
Oh, uniform numbers? Yeah.
Okay. Name them.
8 was my first number with
Wrong.
the Giants. No, it's not wrong because that is the debut number that I had. 4 days later, I actually, it might have been a week later. Take that back. We go on a trip to Milwaukee, come home. Dave Rigetti said, "Hey, I'm giving you 19." And I said, "That's your number." We like my family and Rags have been close. I mean, my dad and him knew each other when he was in Little League. So he gave me 19. So that's technically my second number in the big leagues because 8 was number 1. Baseball Reference does not show it.
Right. I was just saying that. You're cheating because you're looking at Baseball Reference.
No, I'm actually not even looking at it
right now. Oh, you're not? Okay.
Right now. And then I went to I was going to be number 9. I was going to, in 2010, before I got traded to Boston, I got number 9 with the Giants, so that never went on reference. No one knew that one. I still have that jersey, though. Get traded to Boston. I think it was like 55 during camp in that time. Went to the Angels. Was number 18.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the Phillies. I was 28.
Yep.
Went to the Nationals. I was 19.
Yep.
Giants at number 43.
Yep. There you go. So I'm just trying to think of what your investment company is going to be named. So, but if you had the KF number investments, what would it be? Which of those numbers?
19 for life is our family organization for my brother. So
okay.
19 would be it.
Perfect.
But I think the name would technically be like I sucked, I tricked him, something like that.
Okay.
You know?
Sorry, that's
all good.
That's copyrighted. I got that LLC a few years ago. All right. So you want to do top 5? Like, how do you want to do this? I asked you to give me the most improved teams.
Right. I think you're the
host.
You're the host of this whole thing, so why not let's just go your route.
All right. Give me your 5th best, most improved team. We'll do 5-1. Do you have 5? Do you have 5?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's kind of here's why I say it's kind of tough.
Can we do 3?
I think 5 could be done. I'm going to sit there. You know what? Let's do it right now. I'll do number 5. All
right, number 5.
I'm going to go. The 5th team is the Rangers to me.
Most improved. This is the most improved team in the offseason.
Right.
Okay. And by the way,
I actually think they could be higher. I'm just like going off the top of my mind because my number 1 and 2 are pretty easy. But I'm just saying the Rangers, to me, they needed to address some things this offseason. They did, and they still are not done because they need a closer. But you look at re-signing Nathan Eovaldi.
Yep.
Huge, I think, is number 1. Really, the kick started with Kyle Higashioka and, team him up with Jonah Heim, and that's a hell of a 1-2 punch as far as the catchers. Jacob Webb, Hobie Milner, they traded. I think a huge trade for them was getting Robert Garcia from the Nationals, who I've covered. And now you look at it with Hobie Milner, Robert Garcia, and then Cody Bradford.
Mm-hmm.
You have 3 lefties that are pretty so different in the way that they go about things. And what's the one thing that Boch needs? Options in that pen.
Yeah, and he's really good at it.
Yeah, and so you get Sean Armstrong. I do think bringing back Kirby Yates would nail. Like they would go way up on that. They should probably be up on my list anyways. But Jock Peterson, adding him and Jake Berger, I think, to that offense, who we know can be potent at times, I think is a huge thing. But I mean, what Chris Young has done so far this offseason, wasn't the easiest of things to do and try to replicate last year, right? I mean, going back to back. I mean, it's hard to do. They showed it, and I think another year with Wyatt Langford, right? Jung being back, I think that's going to be huge as far as being healthy. This team set up, and I think their offseason has proved it.
And can I tell you, Kevin, that you named 3 guys in Evaldi and Jack Peterson and Jake Berger who you want to talk about clubhouse guys.
Glue guys. They're glue guys.
Glue guys, right. And right. I mean, and you have the stars and they're good guys, Seager and Simeon. And so, I mean, that was one of the reasons why they did what they did a couple of years ago. But I'm not going to go on a rant about how sometimes that isn't well, because it's because I keep doing it. I'm like old man yelling at clouds.
Ultimately, it comes down to this, right? You got to have great talent.
No, I know. I understand that. Right.
But you better have not one, but multiple guys that are glue guys. That maybe if one of those, let's say if you have 4 of them, let's say you have one of 4 guys that is your star player. Let's go, right? Let's jump on board.
And you also know this because you're smart and you also play the game. Is that I there are very few players that can say, hey, here's the C on the chest. A clubhouse is a lot of different elements. Like you go back to when we were together for a minute with the Red Sox, like those clubhouses. You had like Pedroian here, you had Beckett over here, you had Lester over here, you had reliever over here, you had even before you were there, you had a bench bilingual bench guy in Alex Cora. Like a baseball clubhouse isn't just one guy; it's managing. So the manager can manage. So
right. I mean, look, the clubhouse, you got to be able to police yourself.
Yeah,
and there's I think something to be said about like a former player being a manager who has the ability, like Dusty was huge on that, right? Was allowing the players to, it's their clubhouse. And the fact that like a guy that was so transcendent in the game playing to being the great manager that he was, a Hall of Fame manager that he was, allowing that to be, right? Like, and knowing it and understanding it and making it known to everybody that this needs to be policed. And how do you police it? You got to have the right people.
And
right?
Chris Young knows that. I mean, I love
yes, he does.
I love what Chris Young has done. Like I've told the story a million times about the trade deadline, the year they won the World Series, of him getting everybody together and saying, "Okay, guys, do we think we can win the World Series? Because if we do, all these prospects, they're probably going to be gone." Like, right. Oh my goodness, talk about the polar opposite of what we're seeing from so many front offices. Anyway,
well, here's the other thing too, because they're not going to make my list. Because they've only added one guy, is that they're Giants, right? Willie Adames, like the one thing that will always stand out in my mind is the year that he got traded from the Rays till Milwaukee. How many guys that we saw on interviews crying from the Tampa Bay Rays? Whether it was big tears, little tears welled up, or whatever, it doesn't matter. You lost it. You talk about a guy that has it. The same thing goes in Milwaukee. You hear all the stories. You see how he carries himself. And you're like, people follow that. Like, that might be one of those guys that did he get overpaid? I don't think so. I think he's well worth it. I thought he was, the number 2 free agent out there because that's just the way I look at him. And to be able to be that glue guy and to be that quality of a player, come on now. Like, that's...
Right. You should overpay for a guy like that.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Number 4, what do you got?
Well, I think it's pretty... I didn't want to say that they got better, like overall, like right away. You're going like, man, this is the best thing they could have done from last year. But not the biggest fan of the Mets, but what they've done. And it has nothing really to do with Juan Soto. It has it's a great piece, right? Clay Holmes, Shamanai re-signed, Frankie Montas, I think it was. Yeah, Jose Siri, which not biggest fan of it, but like brings some energy that's different there, right? The signing of Griffin Canning too is going to be one that I'm like, wow, all right. Did they make themselves better? I think they have, but they've made some very, I think some very heady moves as far as getting like the Shamanaya for 3 years, Clay Holmes for 3 years to be a starter. But if that doesn't work out, Jordan Hicks style, let's go to the pen. Frankie Montas, two different guys that we saw last year. Which one is he? That could be a huge, what they did with Luis Severino. I mean, I think was fantastic. Again, you get to a new organization, something new, something. Griffin Canning is one of those guys that I'm very intrigued to see what he does this year. I think because I just love I love the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's there, but I think sometimes you get around the same people all the time, good or bad, does not matter, and you kind of, I don't know, you just become a little stale on it. So maybe this him and Jeremy Hefner they work together and figure some things out. But David Stearns obviously open pocketbook with Steve Cohen landing Juan Soto. I think is such a huge deal for them, but the pitching side was the part where you're going, what are they going to do?
And the formula, they have the formula in place in terms of formula isn't just spending $800 million on a player,
right?
But it is that club. You had a good clubhouse, thanks in large part to the guys who are still there, Lindor and Nimmo. Soto is perceived as, this is one of the reasons why, the Red Sox wanted. This was their pitch to him. You're going to be the guy, the middle guy in the middle of the clubhouse. So you have that dynamic, and then the pitching, you have you're running it back with this philosophy, like you said, with Canning, trying to do the same thing with Minaya, obviously with Clay Holmes, and I love the Jordan Hicks analogy. So all of this, so you have the way you're doing things. It worked, so why not keep doing things that way? So yeah, I mean, I think we can't sleep on what David Stern has done. So I approve that. I approve number 4. I'm surprised you didn't have him a little higher, but that's okay.
Well, because my 3 are I'm going to sit there and say it's hard for me to rank 3, 2, 1 on this one.
Okay.
Because I just want to put the 3 together. I do, because there's something to be said about it.
Really?
Yes, because what the Red Sox have done this offseason.
Oh wait, so let's do that. We'll do that. Okay. Here we go. We're putting it all in the congratulations stew.
So this doesn't mean number 1, number 2, or number 3. This just means that these 3 have stood out more than anything about addressing some needs, and I still think the Red Sox have more to do, obviously offensively. But let's say they land Bregman, they would hands down go to number 1 for me. Kicking it off with the Garrett Crochet trade was just fantastic. I mean, you look at like Tanner Houck and Brian Bayo, right? You got 2 East-West guys that, very flat as far as their stuff. When you think about sweepers, sinkers, 2-seamers running it, little 4-seamers with run, the changeups, everything fades. Everything's there. You add in Garrett Crochet now with the top of the zone fastball, and just a nasty slider. Yes. Now you're working north and south. Then you add Walker Buehler. Was it rough last year? Yes. But guess what? So is it. It's been for many guys that have come off Tommy John surgery, especially for the second time. But how did he finish?
Yeah. I mean,
we finally got to see it. We got to finally see the Walker Buehler that we had seen for years. Aroldis Chapman. I mean, the dude he had a 309 FIP last year. You're looking at a guy that, was there struggles early? Yes. But guess what? Ride the ship. Next thing you know, what happens? Oh, my God, he had almost 100 strikeouts yet again. I think he ended up at 98. And then you're going to get, Patrick Sandoval, who's coming off Tommy John. They signed to a 2-year deal. This is the part where you're going, oh, my God, this is what Alex Cora has needed. The pitching depth. Right, and to look at it, and you're going like, yep, they got pitching depth. They definitely have that. The starting depth. Justin Wilson involved in the bullpen. Are there things that still be cleaned up? Absolutely. There's always stuff to be cleaned up. Right, and if there's one thing I know that the Red Sox have shown that they're willing to do is spend money, but it's taken a few
Well,
years
they used to.
do that.
They used to.
It's been a few years to do that.
Yeah.
Can they get it done with Garrett Crochet?
Well, it takes balls to do the Crochet deal. I mean, no question about it. Guys don't like trading prospects. I don't care how good the player is. So you have that dynamic. Good for you. You've checked off that box. And yeah, you allocated short-term deals for Chapman, for Bueller, Sandoval, for these guys. You're dead on with all this stuff. The next level is, are you willing to get uncomfortable in spending that money, the big money, because they have gone away from this. And the Crochet thing is going to be really, really interesting. Everyone focuses on Bregman and getting the other big free agent, which they should, by the way, because Kevin, we'll have to edit this out if he signs by the time this drops. But I can tell you, I have not seen a lot of players that checks off so many boxes, including, by the way, the need for a 30-something, really, really good leader in the clubhouse on that team. That's another box he checks off.
He's not an S talker like Dust, right? Like Petey. But there's a lot that he brings in the confidence part that is Dustin. That we'd all agree.
Right. And that's the guy he idolized, right?
Right. And here's the other part of it is, do you think so? The Tigers thing for me doesn't make sense at all for Bregman.
Well, the only way it would make sense, Kevin, is if they go all Carl Crawford on him. In other words, we're going to pay you so much money, you're not going to be able to turn it down.
Alex Bregman people think this is taking a shot at someone, but think about the teams that he's been on in Houston. He's a huge part of it, right? He has not been the main part of it, right? That's been Altuve, Correa to Yordan Alvarez and himself. And going to the Tigers, you could say Riley Green is, but you got to do it years and years and years before you feel have those dominant years. I'm not I just think it's a bad fit for him. He's not the aircraft carrier.
Right. Yeah.
And he goes to Boston and you team him up with Rafi Devers? Come on.
Yeah. I mean, it makes too much sense. It honestly, and this is where I'm talking. I go back to it. Is it now what they have to show is that they have to show that they are willing to get uncomfortable. And I retweeted a quote from Andrew Friedman. I didn't realize how long ago it was from, but it was, I love this quote. I think it was from 2016. And it was, he says, and this is from Andy McCulloch, had tweeted this on December 6, 2016. Andrew Friedman, if you're always rational about every free agent, you will finish third on every free agent. Right?
Yep.
And I still think a lot of GMs can't get their head around that. They set a price point. So whether we're talking about Bregman or we're talking about Crochet, which is the next thing, which is we can say, oh, they're going to get a deal done. They're going to get a deal done. They're going to get a deal done. Well, you don't know. The further you go along in this process, the more difficult it becomes. So I don't disagree with anything you said. Once again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, the other part too is the Garrett Crochet it was such a win, right? To get him. Craig Breslow, I have appreciated what he has done in the last, basically year plus from getting the job. Because I think everybody that gets in that spot, especially for our players, they want to make moves. They want to do everything they possibly can. He's patient with it. Whether or not people liked it, you gotta get a lay of the land of everything, right? Coming from the Cubs over there and having that understanding of what it is that we have here in Boston. We have a damn good farm system, right? He traded my favorite player, in Nick Yorkie, but I mean that's beyond anything. But look, Marcelo Meyer, he's going to be a unit, right? We get that whole thing. Trevor Story is there for the time being until Marcelo Meyer is ready.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the top end prospects are going to be huge for him, and they had to trade away a couple guys that they wanted to have, like Kyle Teal, right?
But you got to do that, man.
You have to do that.
Yeah.
You have to do it because what we don't know truly about Garrett Crochet yet is exactly what Boston needs. Do we have our guy in the postseason?
Yeah.
Will this guy give us get us to the postseason.
Yeah. And however you need to get him to that position, fine, super. Like do a 7-man rotation. I don't care. So you have the final two that are the congratulations stew of being the top three.
Yeah, so I'm going to sit there and say the Dodgers. I think what the Dodgers have done. Again, you don't rest on your laurels. You go to the World Series and you win it, and next thing you know, what do? You get better. You get Blake Snell. That to me is you could win an offseason just by that, adding that to your rotation. Now, people that want to bitch about the whole thing with deferred contracts and everything, every team could do it.
Yeah,
like every single team could do it. But this is the part that is separated. That's not talked enough. The ownership group of the Dodgers is what? They're the Guggenheim Investment Group. They invest. This is pure investments. And to me, what's greater than paying your guys later down the road? Because why? Because you got the best players out there, and if you win, more money to the franchise. More money to the franchise means what? You can pay your players, do all that stuff, and it just, again, you got Shohei Ohtani to go for $2 million in the cash flow. Technically, you got to put away a bunch of money for the deferred money, but I feel like they've already put away everything. I mean, that's just the way you get it with them. You add Michael Conforto, which was like an interesting one, right? For 1 year, $17 million.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going, all right, why? Like, why? You're trying for Teoscar, but then the Teoscar thing took a little bit of time, but it finally got done, and that's a huge part of this, right? Like they continue to get better because now they have options. To me, Michael Conforto, better than the early parts of the year of Jason Hayward, right? I mean, that's gonna be a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Getting Blake Trinan back, I think, was big. Taking a chance, a little flyer on Giovanni Gallegos too, is a huge part because it's not going to turn. It's not going to change the needle in any way, any direction. But it's one that he's had so much success here in the big leagues, and it's been a couple years from it. What happens when he goes to the Dodgers? That's what I
was going to say. I wonder what organization is best known for a guy maybe underperforming and then dropping in, getting a paycheck from that organization, and then overperforming or performing to their levels that they had before. I mean, this is one of the things they have going for them, Kevin. I mean, the fact is, it's funny because you have a lot of these organizations who, these smaller market or mid-market, hey, listen, and this sort of goes with the Sasaki stuff. Hey, listen, Sasaki and everybody, look at what we do. We have so much under the hood. We have a million different. We might not be investing in players, but we're investing in TrackMan. We're investing in our pitching lab and everything else. And meanwhile, the Dodgers,
we know how to use it.
Right. The Dodgers are sitting there like, yeah. So do we. We know how to use it. We have more of it. And by the way, we also have more money. So There you go.
Well, I think the biggest part is teams can say all they want about building the infrastructure around pitching labs and doing all that stuff. It is craved by everybody, but guess what? It works. Yeah. It does. And if you know how to use it, your franchise is benefiting greatly. And sure enough, you look at Evan Phillips would be number one. For me, when you look at that, Michael Kopech might have been just more change of scenery than anything when you look at it. But I mean, how fantastic he was for quite some time and with the Dodgers in the Dodgers uniform. But Evan Phillips went from being a 4-pitch mix to being like, well, the Cubs told me my worst pitch basically stopped throwing is my changeup. They're like, we want you to throw it more.
Yeah.
So them identifying those things I think are huge.
Well, the Ryan Brazier thing will always go down. You get DFA'd, say, hey, we're going to send you to Arizona for 10 days to learn a cutter. By the way, now you're going to come back and have a 1 ERA. It's like, yeah. So, but so just lastly, the Yankees. When
you knew it was the Yankees?
No, I'm just going to say I can't believe you don't have the Yankees on the list.
Yeah, they're there. Look, I thought going into the offseason, Juan Soto was it wasn't priority. It was, can you get him? If you get him, great. I love Juan. I was able to cover him. I was able to watch him when I was doing the Phillies stuff for years, and I looked at it. I'm like, if this number is going north of 600, then it goes north of 700. You're going like, why would you do that to yourself as a franchise? Right? I mean, you're investing in a player like that. Yes, it's great, but like he's not Shohei.
So you're
Like, no
big,
one-
so you're because there is definitely two camps in this in the offseason, right? There is the Juan Soto is worth the money. He's a difference maker. He's a transcendent player. All of these things, and this is a reason why you don't run isolation for outfielders. But if the closest thing you're going to come is a Juan Soto, or the like the Yankees ended up doing, which is
I just
let's
thought,
spread it out.
I thought Brian Cashman, like the one thing that I think is we all know that Brian Cashman's one hell of a GM. And if you're a Boston Red Sox fan listening to this, you have to be able to nod and say, yes, he is. Because he is. And you think about like when it started for him, what 92, 93-ish? Think about all the eras that he's had to go through. Right? And he's been ahead. He's a little bit in 2010s kind of fell back behind the times and built that infrastructure, got up in the analytics and all this stuff. He is fantastic, and what he has done is to show that he could pivot. I think it was tremendous. Look, they put all their eggs in one basket for one guy, but they had all these other things that are happening on the back burner. I think they're a better team. Now, are they a better team without Juan Soto? That's to be. We'll find out, right? I mean, because now it impacts Aaron Judge, because Cody Bellinger is not Juan Soto, right? Like, so that 1-2 punch is a totally different deal. But when you get, like, I love Max Fried. I thought the Giants should have gotten Max Fried. I thought he and Logan Webb, especially with that left side of the infield, would have been an awesome fit. That didn't happen. But Max Fried to an 8-year deal is expensive. Yeah, sure, great. But that to me wins, right? Like Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Luis Gil is your 4. Like you just made yourself better.
But you know what, Kevin? So with Brian Cashman, all the things you said, including, by the way, the under the hood, the pitching lab stuff, because all you have to do is look at like, who am I'm drawing the blank reliever, Luke Weaver. So but I mean, you just look at situations like that where they also do this stuff, but the most important thing is Brian Cashman isn't afraid to get uncomfortable. And I keep using that
Every
word.
time.
But
Every
so many GMs are afraid. Look at last year. You go for it with Soto. You go for it even with Verdugo. And now this year, you pivot. And to your point, you're not afraid to say, hey, Max Fried, we're going to overpay. We'll pay more than anybody else.
Right.
I mean, you're not afraid to get uncomfortable.
But how many times do you watch a team go into the offseason and they think they found something with a guy in Luke Weaver, right? The guy had like a career 8 going into the season, right? And figured it out to the point where you're going, okay, do they have their guy? No. They went out and got the best closer in the game in Devin Williams. That to me is knowing thyself. Like great Charlie Manuel, I love him. And one of my favorite things, you go, hey, know thyself. Hey, you don't got pop. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, go the other way. But to me, the Yankees know thyself. And they're not putting everything into Luke Weaver being their closer. And they're going to put him in a spot where they're going to have, these chances that he proved. Again, because he got, I'm never going to say abused, because in the playoffs, you want to do everything for your team. So he did everything that he could.
Yeah.
So you get Devin Williams, you get the Airbender, you add in Weaver, and you look at their pen. Look, they re-signed Jonathan Loaizaga, which may go down as sneaky because why? Because we haven't seen him in a while, right? I think that's truly what's going to happen. Live arm, we know that. You look at Devin Williams with the Airbender. You got Luke Weaver. Best pitch is what? It's changeup.
Right.
Right?
Lethal. Yes.
Lethal. Ian Hamilton. Changeup.
Yeah.
They trade for Fernando Cruz. Now, Fernando Cruz had some numbers at times that were a little elevated, but that's fine. It's also Cincinnati. He had 109 punch-outs last year as a reliever. He's got one of the nastier splits out there. Jake Cousins, same type of thing, right? Change up. Mark Leiter Jr. split. Brubaker change up. They have a nasty right-handed pen because there's not one lefty in there.
Yeah.
I do think that is a thing. You got to have a different look in there. But change-up splits, they really went out and identified. And to me, that is going to be interesting as we go forward. But like you look at a team that was able to pivot, turn to Paul Goldschmidt, they get better at first base. Even with the down year by Paul Goldschmidt last year, they're better at first base.
Right. I mean, they're better. They're a better version of last year's Anthony Rizzo.
Yep.
And ultimately, they listen. It was on this podcast multiple times. The LLC owner, Joe Kelly, had said, we knew that the Yankees, what they were going to do because they were terrible fielding. I'm paraphrasing. Said it in a much more articulate, entertaining way. But still, everybody knew this. And when that came out, you see the responses, you see the replies. Even Yankees fans, they're like, "Yeah, we don't like that he said it, but he's not wrong."
He wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong. What I mean, don't we always ask for transparency by players, right?
Yeah.
And so Kelly goes out and says that, and you're like, he's not trying to create anything with this. He's just being honest. You're like, why is that being ran with? That's why I was trying to understand. I was like, he wasn't wrong. It's not a hot take. He spoke the truth. And so you trade for Cody Bellinger, right? And ultimately it makes you better because Aaron Judge now goes to right field.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to think about he dropped the ball in game 5 and all this stuff. It was the first drop of the year for him in center field. So it happens to everybody. Just happened in that moment. It sucks. But you put him in right field and you get him off his still on his legs, but out from running down things. Because I mean, I'll go to the Freddie Freeman robbery that he had in game 5, just before dropping that ball. It was one of the more incredible plays. But you're thinking, I don't want my guy crashing in the wall. I don't want to, because you want a center fielder that's going to go balls to the wall all the time.
Yeah.
But for that, moving him in right field, putting Cody in center field, you've gotten better defensively. Because the fact that Juan Soto was a Gold Glove finalist is still I don't know how. But and again, it sounds like you're crushing, but it's no,
it's just true. It's
just true. But if there's one thing I will say, it has been for me one of the top 3 off seasons. I'm not going to say 1, 2, or 3 because I still think those 3 are going to do more. I do, and to be honest with you, if Boston gets the Bregman, it might solidify them as number 1.
I hope I got you fired up. Did I get you fired? Let's go. Lower the heart rate.
I mean, look, I want the Nationals to do more, but they haven't, and it's at times you're all right, whatever. But I want to compete with these teams.
Yeah.
I'm calling these games. I want to see it.
Yeah. Well, you know what you do? You get a stool. You put it in the middle of the clubhouse. You put it in the middle of the clubhouse and you say, "Hey, fellas, let them buy their teams. Let them buy their teams. Grit, gut, hard work. I know what it's all about." I want you to do that.
Davey wouldn't let me speak in front of anybody.
Well, I tell you what.
Actually, Davey might. I don't think Riz would let me.
I tell you what. In spring training, when I see you in spring training, let's workshop your Rudy on the stool speech. All right.
Oh, dude, I could nail that.
I know you could. That's why I'm asking.
Basketball today, huh?
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah.
What grade?
Come on, varsity high school.
Did I tell you about my ordeal?
All right, let's finish it with the story of your ordeal. Let's hear it.
I have a 3rd and 4th grade girls basketball team at Andrew Bailey's former school back here in South Jersey. I have 19 girls.
Oh.
They wouldn't let me have 2.
They wouldn't let what?
I have 2 girls that have played. They wouldn't let me have 2 teams.
Oh, really? So you have to play. You have to play all 19.
Yeah. So someone that's so competitive in myself is just yay! I love getting my ass kicked. Here we go.
How am I supposed to run a box and 1? How am I supposed to run? I
tell Tenley, my daughter, I was like, just look, when you get in there, it's your time to shine.
Yeah, you only have so many minutes. You got to get your shots up.
Get your shots up. Don't worry about it. No, I'm kidding.
No, listen,
But it's fun, man. It's fun. I grew up around the game. That's what it is my favorite sport. My dad coached it for 50 years before he passed, and it was one thing that I will always say is living in a gym is one of the best things ever.
well, I look forward to seeing you. Always the highlight of my pre MLB season is seeing you. It's true. I remember, we did the podcast sitting in the stands and just like this, you could talk forever. And I see you
About anything and everything.
about everything.
This is my favorite part. It's not supposed to be.
So I look forward to it. It's going to be awesome. You're awesome.
You know that baseball is not boring, right? It isn't boring.
It's
My computer.
if it's on your computer, let it be said, let it be done. It's a fact. It's science.
Right here, though, right?
It's this again. It's evolving. All right, man.
All right, buddy.